All right, we're going to take some notes on clouds. So first we want to talk about what clouds are. They are a collection of millions of tiny water droplets or ice crystals. And clouds are classified by form, which means how they look, and their altitude, which refers to how far from the Earth's surface they form and where they are. To just give you an idea, a size comparison of raindrops, and then the picture here in this area is a cloud droplet, and then this size here is when condensation occurs. So in the cloud we have smaller water droplets, and if you remember from our last chapter, a water droplet actually is liquid water, where the condensation nucleus size down here would be a water vapor. So we have to collect quite a few cloud droplets in order to make a drop of rain that would be large enough to fall from the sky. Now let's talk about how clouds form. And this should be a little bit familiar to you, as we've talked about this before. We know that warm air rises. And when warm air rises, it rises to an area of the atmosphere that's cooler. So that air is going to cool to its dew point temperature. Now remember, the dew point temperature is the temperature at which the air is saturated. And it would be 100% relative humidity. So you can see in the picture down here, we have a little graphic. Our warm air is rising. Up here where the cloud forms, it's going to cool off. It cools to the point where condensation can occur, which is the dew point temperature, and then you have some clouds that are forming. Okay, our other two statements that we need to write down here is what we've just outlined, is that water vapor condenses, and whether that condensation occurs as a liquid or a solid is going to depend on the temperature. So if it's above freezing, it's going to be liquid droplets, and if it's below freezing, you're actually going to have some ice in the clouds. Now let's talk about the altitude of the clouds, because we have names that are prefixes to clouds terms, and that helps us know what the altitude for the cloud is. So cirro means high altitude. Since they're high altitude, they're probably going to be pretty cold, and you're going to have ice crystals in those clouds. Alto means middle altitude. Now for those of you who are in any kind of music, you may recognize that term, alto. So here you're going to have ice crystals and some water droplets. I just want you to feel like you're still at school with these notes. So we've got some bells going on. Low altitude clouds have no prefix. So that's going to be just the name of the cloud itself. Now we're going to be looking at cloud descriptions. So on your note sheet you have a chart, and across the top of the chart we have the different names of the clouds. Some of these are basic names, and some of them have the prefixes in them, as we were just talking about. And so what we're going to do is to go through and complete each column. Now here is our cumulus cloud information. So cumulus clouds are big and fluffy with flat bottoms. And sometimes they're described as cotton balls. They look like cotton balls. Now let's go back to that first column, because I hope you noticed that the first column was already filled out. Cirrus clouds are high. They're very wispy looking, as you can see in the picture, and they often have kind of a hook design also on them. And since they are high clouds, remember cirrus is the prefix that means high altitude, they're going to have ice crystals in them. So now you should have information written down in the cirrus section and in the cumulus section. And you'll notice that there are pictures up here too to help you realize what those clouds look like. Okay, our next cloud is the stratus cloud. Now these are flat clouds that layer. And when you look up into the sky, you will just see a flat layer of clouds that stretch out, can be stretching out over large areas of the sky. Sometimes you can't even see the ends of these clouds. Other times, like in the picture, you can, but they still are covering very large areas. Now our next cloud is the nimbus cloud. Now nimbus clouds are the bad weather clouds. And they're just going to kind of stretch out. Sometimes they can be big, sometimes they're not very big. They're more of a flat kind of cloud. And they're gray, and they can be very dark, almost black looking. And in the picture we can see a cloud that's very dark, and there's rain that's coming down from this cloud. And that's very often what happens with a nimbus cloud. It's going to produce rain. All right, our next cloud is the alto. This is a middle-ranged cloud, and it can have ice crystals and water droplets. Now that we have finished the chart, I want you to turn your page over, and we're going to see how we can combine these words to create 10 different types of clouds. So on the back you will see numbers 1 through 10. And I want you to look at each cloud as it's numbered and see if you can pick out from the cloud bank what cloud we're talking about. So let's go through these. Number 1 is a cirrus cloud. Remember, cirrus is high up, so as you can see the altitudes listed on the side of the graph on the picture, you can see that cirrus is a very high cloud, and it has that hooked, wispy end. You can kind of see how the wind is blowing up there by their shape. All right, number 2, see if you can pick out number 2. All right, let's see if you got it correct. Number 2 is a cirrostratus cloud. Cirro meaning high up, stratus meaning it covers a large area. So you can see that these are kind of layered. Stratus also means layered. So these clouds are kind of in layers, as you can see there in the picture. All right, try number 3. It's high up, and it has little puffies. So high up is cirro, and puffies, little cotton balls, is cumulus. So this is a cirrocumulus cloud. Now let's look at number 4. Now we're down in a different altitude. And we've got little puffies. So number 4 is alto. Alto meaning middle altitude, and cumulus meaning puffy. So alto, cumulus, middle altitude, puffy cloud. All right, let's look at number 5. 5 is middle to low altitude, and it has layers. So alto, middle, stratus, layers. So you can see how we are combining the altitude words and the shape words to create all of these different cloud names. Now let's look at 6. We see 6 is kind of puffy. And the puffies are layered. So we have layered little puffy clouds, so that's strato for layered and cumulus for puffy. Number 7. Now number 7, we're down into the low altitude clouds now, so we don't have any altitude prefixes. So number 7 is stratus, just a layered cloud. All right, let's look at number 8. Notice it's kind of long too, but notice the color of it. That's going to be the big clue. And that is a nimbostratus. Stark, nimbo, stratus, layered over large areas. Now let's look at number 9. We have 2 left. Number 9, kind of puffy looking, isn't it? Flat on the bottom. So it is a cumulus cloud. Cumulus. Number 10. Now number 10 is a pretty tall cloud. It will stretch up many, many feet. As you can see on the side, really tens of thousands of feet. It's got a flat bottom. So this is going to be a cumulonimbus. These will be dark on the bottom. They're often referred to as thunderheads or anvil heads because of their shape. So if you look at this shape right here, we have the shape coming up. It kind of goes in as it is rising and forming, and then it goes out at the top. So it creates that anvil head. But they're very, very tall. They're going to be dark across the bottom, and these are clouds that are formed when warm air is rising very quickly and cooling. So as that air rises and cools, it creates the cloud all the way up. All right, and here's our picture. I hope to get a little bit smoother at this, as this is my first try for the flipped classroom. But right here we have a nice picture that you can look at. And tomorrow in class, if you have all of your notes finished, then you'll be able to go on to making your cloud poster, which we are going to use cotton balls to do that. So if you have a small bottle of glue, you might want to bring that also to class. So bring your notes tomorrow to class completed. Thank you very much.